Today, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the most incredible stories on our planet, a journey 50 million years in the making to trace the absolutely epic story of the whale. So, let me start with a question for you. It kind of sounds like a riddle, right? You've got this ancient, hoofed predator, about the size of a wolf, built to run around on land. And then you have a blue whale, an animal longer than a basketball court, totally at home in the deep ocean. So, what in the world could they have in common?
Well, believe it or not, they're basically the same animal. They're just at two very different points on one of the most dramatic evolutionary journeys ever. So let's get into it. This is the story of how a creature of the land became the absolute master of the sea.
Okay, our first chapter here is all about this mind-blowing transformation. And we're not talking about just moving from the beach into the water. No, this was a complete reinvention of their entire body from the inside out.
And the fossil record lays this all out for us, like a perfect story. It all kicks off around 50 million years ago with a creature called Pachycetus. Now, it had the ankles of a land animal, but here's the clue. Its skull and inner ear were already designed for hearing underwater. That's a key whale trait right there. Fast forward just 3 million years, and we meet Ambulocetus, which literally means the walking whale. With its webbed feet, it was comfortable in both fresh and salt water, a huge step toward a fully aquatic life. And by 34 million years ago, the path was set. Whales split into the two big groups we know today, the toothed hunters, like dolphins, and the massive baleen filter feeders.
And this is what's so cool about how evolution works. It's not just about adding new things, it's also about getting rid of what you don't need anymore. To truly conquer the ocean, whales had to ditch their entire land-based toolkit. Their back legs vanished, fur was swapped for blubber, their front legs morphed into powerful fins, and in exchange, they got a body perfectly engineered for the water, a blowhole right on top for easy breathing, and this incredible horizontal tail that acts like a massive propeller, driving them through the deep.
This whole losing to win thing happened all the way down at the genetic level too. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? But whales literally ditched genes that became useless or even dangerous in the water. I mean, why would you need to make saliva if you live in the ocean? Or how about melatonin, the sleep hormone? Deep sleep for a whale could mean drowning. So, they lost it. They even dropped genes that help blood clot, which could be fatal under the crushing pressure of the deep sea. Losing these genes wasn't a setback, it was a huge leap forward.
So for millions of years, these early baleen whales were doing just fine, about the size of a modern minke whale. But then, around 4.5 million years ago, something big happened with Earth's climate that changed absolutely everything and paved the way for giants.
So picture this. The whole planet starts to cool down. Ice caps start forming up north, and this dramatically changes the ocean's food supply. Plankton, which used to be spread out pretty evenly, started clumping together in these super dense, nutrient-rich patches. It created these massive, all-you-can-eat buffets. The only catch? These buffets were seasonal and were often thousands of kilometers apart.
So, this new setup created this intense evolutionary pressure. Suddenly, the whales that thrive were the ones with bigger bodies. It was like having a bigger fuel tank, right? It allowed them to make those enormous trips between feeding grounds. Smaller whales just couldn't make the journey. In this new world, being big was the key to survival. And just like that, the age of the Leviathans had begun.
But here's where the story gets even more amazing. Their evolution wasn't just physical. Whales also developed something we used to think was exclusively human: culture. I mean, just listen to the songs of the humpback whale. Researchers noticed something wild. In any given breeding season, all the males in a huge population, sometimes spread across entire oceans, are singing the exact same complicated song. But the next year, the song will be different, and somehow everybody gets the memo and learns the new version. It's literally like a pop hit that goes #1 across the entire planet.
And that right there, that's a perfect example of what scientists call cultural transmission. And this stuff isn't hardwired into their DNA. These are behaviors that are learned, they're shared, and they're passed on from whale to whale. This social learning is the very bedrock of culture, whether you're talking about us or about them.
And it turns out this kind of culture comes in a couple of different flavors. You've got vertical culture, which is passed down from a parent to their child. A fantastic example is in Shark Bay, Australia, where dolphin moms actually teach their kids how to use sponges as tools to protect their noses when they're digging for food. And then you have horizontal culture, which is learned from your peers, like those humpback songs that spread like wildfire through a whole generation. Okay, so just how fast can this peer-to-peer learning actually spread? Well, in the Gulf of Maine, scientists saw a brand new, pretty complex hunting technique pop up, called lobtail feeding.
And the speed at which it took off is just stunning.
Get this. In less than a decade, this totally new and complex behavior was adopted by almost half the entire population. This wasn't genetics changing over time. This was pure observation and imitation. It's an incredible look at just how fast whale culture can innovate and adapt.
All right, so we've got bodies that changed, we've got culture, but what about their famous migrations? These epic journeys they take every year? Well, it turns out we've been missing a huge piece of that puzzle. I mean, for the longest time, we all just kind of assumed they did, right? We pictured this simple commute, a straight shot from the cold feeding areas to the warm breeding grounds, and then back again. Easy. But nope. Thanks to some awesome satellite tagging tech, we now know their journey is way more interesting. It's less like a nonstop flight and a lot more like a long road trip, with planned stops at these critical, hidden spots along the way.
So how do scientists even spot these stops? They look for this specific behavior in the data called Area Restricted Search, or ARS. Basically, when a whale's movement goes from fast and straight to slow and wandering around in one spot, researchers know they've found one of these important rest areas.
And we're not talking about a couple of whales taking a break here and there. This behavior is common, like really common. A study on humpbacks in the South Pacific found it was incredibly widespread. A whopping 74% of the whales they tagged stopped their migration at these underwater mountains called seamounts. And they weren't just passing through, they were hanging out for more than a week on average. This tells us these seamounts aren't just landmarks. They are vital hubs, like oases in the ocean for resting, socializing, maybe breeding, or even grabbing a quick bite to eat. So after 50 million years of becoming these masters of the ocean, these cultural giants, these incredible deep-sea navigators, whales are now facing their greatest challenge ever. And that challenge is us. An ocean being completely reshaped by human activity.
The threats they face today are just massive, and they come from all sides. The ocean itself is changing. Our missions are making it more acidic, which messes with their food, and even how their calls travel through the water. It's also getting so much louder. The constant noise from ships and industry is like a thick fog that disrupts their communication and navigation. And finally, the ocean is just more crowded. Ship strikes and getting tangled in fishing gear are now some of the leading causes of death for these animals.
And if you want to see just how serious this is, just look at the North Atlantic right whale. There are fewer than 350 of them left in the entire world, and out of that tiny number, only about 70 are breeding females. Let that sink in. 70. The entire future of this species that's been around for millions of years, it hangs on the survival of just those 70 females.
You know, the story of the whale is this absolutely breathtaking saga of survival and adaptation against all odds. Their 50 million year journey has led them right here, to this critical point in time, a point defined by our actions. So the real question is, what will our journey, the one we're on right now, mean for their future?